The following is an independently produced community access program. The viewpoints expressed are those of the community access producer and do not reflect those of Shaw Cable Systems. The program is presented in response to CRTC policy guidelines regulating community programming.
Welcome to Your Turn, Edmonton's live interactive television talk show where you join in the discussion. So the phone line will be on the screen as we go through this next hour. So it's your turn for your questions and comments for our special guest, Mayor Don Iveson, who in October 2013 won a landslide victory, receiving the highest number of votes in history to become the second youngest mayor in Edmonton's history. And yesterday, 5 months after being elected, Mayor Don Iveson delivered his first State of the City address. So it's a pleasure to welcome Mayor Don Iveson. Welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure to be here, Wade.
Busy week, a busy couple days. The State of the City address yesterday, and of course the provincial budget today. When we talk about the state,
and the Prime Minister of Iceland is here today.
Oh, there you go. That's right. So lots happening in the city.
There's a few things going.
Never a dull moment. I want to talk about your inaugural State of the City address. Obviously, Premier Redford was in attendance, and you said, and I quote, "Show that you understand the needs of this city in the same way that my council does. Show Alberta's capital city that we are worth investing in." On provincial budget day, did the province respond with a favorable response?
Well, yes and no. We're not quite sure yet. There is some additional funding rolling out during the 3-year span of the budget, but we had always been clear with the province and with the finance minister in particular that where we really need money for the Southeast LRT is actually about 4 and 5 years from now, which is when the really big construction would be happening and the final payments would be being made on things like receiving LRT vehicles, and that's where the major cost of this $1.8 billion project is. So our first look at the budget here doesn't show us a lot of money in the 3 years that are actually forecast, but they're trying to assure us, and we've been having conversations back and forth all afternoon, that there is an additional commitment out beyond that, and so we're continuing to work with them to try to figure out how that's actually going to bridge the gap so that we have sufficient funding so that we can carry on with this project. And we're working backwards from a roughly end of April timeline to try to actually get out to the market and secure pricing, which we think right now will be good. And so continue to work with the province on that. And it's not in the budget. I can't connect the dots with the material that was connected to that was put out today, but we're still trying to work with them, and they appear to be trying to work with us to find a way to make this happen.
Obviously, you need funding from both levels of government. You were just recently in Ottawa last week for the Big City Mayors Conference. Did you get lots of support from the MPs?
Yeah, very good meetings in Ottawa with, first of all, MPs from our area who are well aware of our priority and clearly had been speaking to their colleagues. So there were ministers who we spoke to who understood that we're very passionate about LRT and what it can do for Edmonton, and so we had the opportunity to reinforce that message with them, as well as talk to them about how important Edmonton is to the Northern Alberta economy and how continued investment in Edmonton is going to be good for Canada, and trying to position rail, and I think all the mayors of the large cities across the country are trying to do this with rail right now, position it as part of important nation building in an increasingly urbanizing and increasingly congested, if we don't do anything about it, country. So messages were well received, and I was glad to have those meetings.
2 weeks ago, you kicked off a social media campaign to rally support behind you. Before you went to Ottawa, you're wearing your pin there. This is the shirt that you wore at the press conference. I'll just show that. You can see that there. The hashtag YEG4LRT and then the website for LRT.ca. Why did you think it was important to have a social media campaign for this?
Well, I mean, obviously there's this short-term question about how do we get the funding all lined up to carry on with council's unanimous unanimously declared top infrastructure priority for new investment, and that's the Southeast LRT. But this is really also about trying to elevate the conversation, certainly in Alberta and also across the country, about the importance of this kind of infrastructure, specifically rapid transit, to building globally competitive cities in Canada in the 21st century. And if we continue to just assume that we're going to be able to get everywhere in our cars, then we're going to wind up like Toronto or even increasingly Calgary, where congestion is starting to really undermine the economy there, starting to make the movement of labor to and from workplaces more difficult and frustrating for people. And that cuts into their productivity because they're grumpy when they get to work, and they're grumpy when they get home to see their family at the end of the day after a long commute. And equally importantly, it cuts into the ability to continue to move goods through our economy, which is incredibly important because we actually make tangible things here. So it's not a pure knowledge economy. There's still trucks that need to move in and out of Edmonton and Calgary and other busy urban areas in the country. And so it's especially important that we build the infrastructure today to relieve that congestion in the future, and also open up the different, more urban and walkable lifestyle options around the city, connecting major points of origin and major destinations. Of course, downtown's a focal point, but you got West Edmonton Mall, you got Millwoods, you've got places like Southgate and Clairview, which are already town centers in and of themselves, anchored around LRT. And we need to deliver this infrastructure in a timely and reasonable pace around the country. And so we wanted to shine a light on that with this campaign.
What do you want Edmontonians to do as part of this campaign?
Well, certainly, at minimum, people can tweet and use the hashtag if they're on Twitter. They've got the opportunity to go to the website and indicate their support and learn more, equip themselves with some knowledge so that they can be advocates as well if they happen to be talking to a member of the Legislative Assembly or a member of Parliament, and also so that they can answer questions, of each other. And this campaign so far has done exactly what we wanted to, which was, raise the level of debate around public transit and its importance to Edmonton's future for all Edmontonians, and we trust that that's going to wash over on decision makers in Ottawa and at the legislature.
I have to ask you this question since you were in Ottawa for the mayor's conference. Rob Ford, did you get a chance to talk with him?
We were in the same room, but we didn't have the opportunity to chat. I think all of us there wanted to stay focused on the big issues that are of concern for big city mayors. It was remarkable to be in a room with people who represent up to 2/3 of the population of the country when we're all assembled. And to be a part of that, to have Edmonton at that table is very important as we try to take our place as a leading Canadian city, and I think we're on that trajectory. But even Toronto has the same issues we have about trying to get their transit infrastructure built, trying to deal with housing, trying to manage growth effectively. In some ways it was actually good to have Toronto there, in spite of all the other controversy, and it generated more awareness of the fact that there is a big city mayor's table than I think there's been
some of the
before.
mayors were quoted saying they deliberately stayed away from him. I mean, if he came up to talk with you, would you avoid him? Would you engage in conversation with him? How do you feel about the whole issue of him personally and being the mayor of Toronto?
Well, let's just say I was always happened to be at the opposite end of the room. So.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Let's talk about your inaugural State of the City address, some of the key issues that you brought as a focus, tackling poverty. You want to create the mayor's task force on poverty, and you said bring it to the power of the mayor's office. What do you foresee that happening? What do you foresee happening in the future with that?
Well, managing poverty in Edmonton is not working. It's not working in Alberta. And it's costing us billions in healthcare because people who grow up in poverty and live in poverty disproportionately draw on the healthcare system. Their productivity is lower for a variety of reasons. They have higher needs in terms of housing. So we know that there's a cost here that, and just continuing to throw resources at it isn't working. But more importantly, I think we can begin to understand and imagine the circumstances that children in particular face when they grow up in poverty. And there are 30,000 children in Edmonton alone who are growing up in poverty. And there are different definitions of poverty, but roughly speaking, that's below the poverty line according to Statistics Canada that tracks these things. And those kids are starting out at such a disadvantage, precisely when we need people from Edmonton to be well-skilled and able to go to work and able to contribute to the community. And it's not to say that if you grow in poverty, you can't do that. You're just at such a big disadvantage. And so the purpose of the Mayor's Task Force is to bring people together dialogue about what we can do about this, recognizing that the changes that might come out of this will take a generation to implement. But we're not alone in this. The provincial government is working on a poverty reduction strategy and a child poverty elimination strategy. So our opportunity is to define what does that look like for Edmonton, and to engage our faith communities, our business community leaders, and subject matter experts from our post-secondary institutions to the charities that work with people every day about shifting from this management model and shifting from thinking about this as just charity to how do we really empower these people to succeed in Edmonton so that they can be the next generation of unlikely entrepreneurs, so that they can give back more, so that they can have more fulfilling lives, and we're going to see positive outcomes in terms of lower crime rates, lower need for social housing, and I guess the province will be the big saver on healthcare costs most likely.
Well, you're watching Your Turn here on Shaw TV. My name is Wade Sorkin. My special guest is Mayor Don Iveson. The phone number is going to be on the screen throughout the next hour. So we want to hear from you, your thoughts and opinions, your tweets to Mayor Don Iveson. What did you think about the State of the City address and the direction of our city over the next few years? And obviously the provincial budget today. Do you think there was good news in there for Edmonton as well? So call the number on the screen. We want to hear from you. Another one of your main focuses is Aboriginal relations, and this ties in with what you were just talking about. So talk about your passion about that. That was something that you stated right after you got elected. That was a key focus for you.
Well, it goes back to about 6 years ago when I was first elected to City Council, actually when I was first running for City Council, and talking to leaders in the community about some of the challenges facing Edmonton, some of the pressures we're going to face in the future. And one person told me, we're going to very soon have the largest urban Aboriginal population in the country. And this was said to me with great fear. And that's always bothered me because I think we have to see it as a remarkable opportunity. First and foremost, the fact that Indigenous people see Edmonton as a safe place, as a place of opportunity, and to confront the fact that there are a lot of stigmas about Indigenous people that really aren't fair. There is still deep racism in this country towards Indigenous people, and it's very wrong. And if we need to shift the discussion from one of fear to one of opportunity, which is what I see, because people are coming here to work, they're coming here to raise their families, they're coming here to have great schools, the same things that are bringing people from around the world to Edmonton. And but there are some historical challenges. There's the residential school trauma that people are still dealing with. There's overrepresentation of Indigenous people in our homeless and poor population at rates well above the rest of the population. And so I think there's the opportunity for healing the relationship with Indigenous people, and some of that's can happen this month actually with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission meetings that are going to be held in Edmonton in a few weeks. An opportunity to hear for all of us to understand how deep the wounds are from the residential school experience, but also to shift to reconciliation and think about how our communities are going to thrive, with understanding of what happened, but also empowering Indigenous people and accepting and welcoming and recognizing first and foremost that this is Indigenous land. This is Treaty 6 territory, and we're all beneficiaries of that treaty and the chance to work together to build an even stronger Edmonton. All
right, well, we have a caller. Let's go to the phones. This is Your Turn here on Shaw TV. I'm Wade Sorkin, my special guest, Mayor Don Iveson, and we have Raquel on the line. Raquel, welcome to the program.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead. You're on with Mayor Don Iveson.
Hi, Mayor. I would just like to ask you, as a resident of downtown Edmonton, what are your plans regarding the new arena going up?
Well, the project we just were able to announce last month is on budget. So there was a lot of work with our construction managers to ensure that everything was priced out and that the contracts were set into the future so that we could go ahead with building the arena. And so we were able to announce that. So would have been huge delays if and there's a still from the event. So we're able to go ahead with it now, and actually on Monday shovels went in the ground on it. So we're going to carry on building it. We're hoping to have it open in September of 2016, and that with that is going to come continued reinvestment in Edmonton. We're seeing a lot of interest from developers who are nearby, who now know that this is going ahead, who are excited to invest private capital in our downtown again, and that just bodes very, very well for the long-term prospects for our city. And people are excited.
Thank you, Raquel. Thank you. Yeah, people are excited excited. I mean, it's been at the press conference. The owner of the Edmonton Oilers, Daryl Cates, said it's been a long 8 years for him since he's owned the team, and it's been a long, probably 6 years of discussion about, a new arena. He knew when he first, bought the team that he needed a new arena. So, is it kind of a breath of fresh air to stop talking about, what we were talking about? Is it possible? Who's going to pay for this, that, to actually have shovels in the ground now when we're moving forward?
Absolutely. I mean, any big city building question like this is going to be divisive, and it was a tough negotiation all around. At the end of the day, we have a deal. It secures a 35-year location agreement for the Edmonton Oilers. It builds us an extraordinary building for downtown. One of the things I'm insisting on is, this can't be a 35-year building. This has to be a building that's going to stand the test of time, that may need to be renovated in the future, no doubt, but that it's going to be a landmark downtown for generations to come, and that long term we're going to look back on it and say, what, this was a good investment in our city. And I had my challenges with the deal as it was coming together, as we all did, but it's a done deal and it's time to move on.
What was the turning point for you to be on this side of it now?
Well, I had always recognized that it could do very positive things for downtown, but it was in the last steps of the negotiation where we were able to move some funding out of it that I didn't think should be a part of it. It was general infrastructure funding that we could spend on other priorities. That came out, and at the end, actually the Oilers and the Cates Group came together with some additional funding to meet part of the gap, and I think Edmontonians were waiting to see that kind of gesture, and so that was when the deal started to finally improve, because I'd had my challenges with it, but in the end, once the terms improved a little bit for us, I was happy to support it.
Well, we want you to support this program by calling in. It's your turn here on Shaw TV. The phone number is on the screen. We're going to take a quick break. We'll take more of your calls with my guest, Mayor Don Iveson, right after this.
Crystal Glass Canada, with 15 Edmonton area locations for auto, residential, and commercial glass services. Visit crystalglass.ca or call 310-GLASS.
It keeps you awake at night, and it causes stress. Debt. No one else sees it, but it's always there, weighing you down.
Get debt off your back. The Credit Counseling Society is a nonprofit service that's helped thousands of Canadians solve their debt problems. It's confidential, it's free, and it works. Call the Credit Counseling Society. All you've got to lose is your debt.
Oh, what a beautiful world, what a beautiful world this world could be. Oh, what a beautiful world, what a beautiful world this world could be.
The foundation of my community starts with you and me. More than charity, it's the empathy I feel for the people where I live. Close to home is where the heart is. Where help goes farthest, my foundation helps me start this. Bringing care to those who can't get by or just need to fly. My foundation reaches across the land, showing what we thousands banded together can do, including you. With a way and a will, it all gets built on the foundation.
Shaw TV is your local voice, bringing local events, information, and entertainment to your community. Shaw TV welcomes story ideas and proposals for shows or series that represent local viewpoints and activities. These shows or series can be an idea or already produced. For information on how to submit a proposal, please visit us at shawtv.com.
I see a lot of youth on the streets on White. I work on White, so I see them a lot, and they're really troubled, and they have lots of problems. I'm just wondering what you can do to help them and help the shelter, because it does need help.
Welcome back to Your Turn. I'm Wade Sorokin. My special guest is Mayor Don Iveson. The phone number is on the screen throughout the program here. We want to hear from you. As you saw, we just, we went out on the street and got some questions and comments from Edmontonians. That one about youth and supporting the youth and through youth shelters in Edmonton.
Well, we you know, I personally have supported the Youth Emergency Shelter for a long time. Actually, my aunt and uncle made donations in my name since I was a kid, rather than buying me presents because they thought it was important. And so I've actually been a big fan of the work of the Youth Emergency Shelter since I was 5. So, I believe very strongly in what they do. The city actually doesn't fund the work that they do directly in terms of their programs. Those are more provincial responsibility. But we've certainly worked with them with infrastructure funding. We gave them the Armory building in order to open that space. They've been really challenged in their funding in order to keep that open long enough to, you know, through enough hours of the day to deliver their program to youth. But those youth who they do touch, you know, they do change lives, and it's important. Very, very important work, and again, I'm a big advocate for that. But some of this larger conversation we were talking about before, and with respect to poverty, I mean, you know, this is part of the longer term strategy to reducing the number of people who find themselves in those circumstances, working on youth poverty and empowering some of the families who are in circumstances that lead to youth homelessness and some of the issues that the young lady was discussing. So I'm very sensitive to it, and it's part of a bigger picture for sure.
Okay. Well, speaking of youth, I mean, you stated during the election campaign and after you got elected, you're part of this generational change in the city. You're 34 years old, unless you had a birthday since you got elected.
Still 34.
Still 34 years old. Slightly younger than the city's median age of 36, which is already 4 years younger than the Canadian average. How will this generational change help your vision to build, in your words, an extraordinary city?
Well, you know, it's neat because I think the average age of mayors of the larger communities in Alberta is 37 right now. So I'm on the low end, but you know, the mayor of Red Deer, I saw her this morning at an event we were at. I think she's well, only a couple years older than me. But you know, there's this turnover in Calgary 3 years ago, and in Grand Prairie, and so there's just a lot of new energy around the municipal table. And whenever we get together, you know, I think we think about problems a little bit differently. I think we're less concerned about, oh well, that wasn't possible a generation ago, so we shouldn't talk about it. We say, no, let's talk about things like poverty. Let's talk about things like a great mass transit system for our cities. And you know, I think there's a level of ambition there because we have to live with the consequences of our decisions for, you know, hopefully 50 years. And I'll see my kids grow up in the city that we build, and they're going to, you know, rise and fall with the fortunes of the city. So I think we're just connected and aspirational, and then I think one of the other things is, you know, certainly a lot of us of this age group in public service are really keen to use technology to connect with people, and you know, social media in particular, and so we're connected, and I think we have the opportunity to bring a whole new group of people into politics. That was the most rewarding part of the last election for me, was young people in their 20s voting for the first time, volunteering for the first time, thinking about running for office one day now, and elementary school kids who are just, you know, like, I'm a rock star in a grade 6 classroom, and that, you know, it doesn't matter how bad a day I'm having. If there's a grade 6 class coming through City Hall and I can go talk to them for 2 minutes, it just lifts me right off the ground.
Well, let's talk to some of our callers right now. This is Your Turn on Shaw TV with my special guest, Mayor Don Iveson. I'm Wade Sorokin, and this is John on the phone line. John, welcome to the program.
Hi.
You're on with Mayor Iveson.
Sorry?
You're on with Mayor Don Iveson. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Can you bring us up to date with what's going on at the City Centre Airport, and when we're going to get shovels in the ground? Give me a minute to hang up, and I'll turn the volume up.
Thank you for that question, John. Yeah, the City Centre Airport closed, and now we're looking forward to Blatchford development.
Absolutely. John, thanks for the question. City Council is getting a detailed report in, I think it's next week or the week after, just about the next phases of work there. But if you go by now, you'll actually see there has been some shoveling in the ground to do soil testing, which is the most important piece of work that we had to do next, which was just to see where because there is some contamination on the site. People are concerned about that. There is some remediation work to do, and we need to know where that is, because when we're digging basements for development and digging trenches for utilities, you know, if we can also take care of contamination at the same time, it's more efficient. So that's work that's ongoing right now, and you know, I'm eager to see servicing start to go in the ground in the next year or two. Realistically, we're a couple of years away from people living there, but there's a lot of excitement in the city for it, and the opening of the LRT actually right up there to Nate, there's a temporary station which will connect with with the future development, and the train will run right through it. That LRT station is going to open in June of this year, so that's one of the first linchpins for it. So we're moving ahead with that, and this council is very, very committed to seeing a real leading edge development there, different lifestyle for families, high environmental performance. This is going to be something that we're going to be able to show the world.
All right, let's get back to the phones, and I believe we have Dawn on the line. Dawn, welcome to the program. Hello, Dawn.
Yeah, hi. I would like to talk to the mayor on. I'm really. I like the fact that he is pushing the LRT. That's really, really important. I couldn't commend you more for doing that. And what about the West End? Will that ever happen? How long will it going to take to bring in the West End? I live by Westmount, and I would just like to see, when that may happen. I know that may be in the future. Also, just a really quick one on the new Coliseum that's going in downtown. I think that's an excellent idea. I think we've stalled on that way too long. People look at that as if it's a hockey arena. No way. If you go to Toronto and you see what happens in the Air Canada Centre there, this city absolutely needs that to happen. Thanks, Don. You're a great mayor.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate the call. So obviously a supporter of the arena and LRT. I mean, two big issues in the past few years here.
Absolutely, Don. You know, the LRT, or sorry, the arena is absolutely an anchor for downtown. And in 2016, I was just talking about this with a group of business leaders this morning. You know, in 2016, the face of our downtown is going to change profoundly. It's going to see the opening up of the arena. It's going to see the near complete Royal Alberta Museum, and you know, what we really need in order to be able to get people to and from all these exciting things that are happening in our downtown is a complete LRT system. You know, those people who can use it today from the southwest and the northeast, you know, it's a way of life for 100,000 trips a day on our system. We need to see that move out to be a benefit to hundreds of thousands of more Edmontonians. Realistically, it could take, you know, a generation to build out the whole system, but that's only if we start now. And so that's why if you go to 4lrt.ca, you can see what a map of the full build out of the system looks like. What City Council has done is said that our priority is to build from the southeast to downtown first for a variety of technical reasons. That's where the maintenance facility is on that line. You can't build to the west without having the maintenance facility to store and maintain the vehicles. And that's where the highest ridership is in Edmonton right now. But one of the reasons I'm pushing so hard and why Council wants to see sustained, predictable funding for transit investment from all three orders of government, and we'll step up because this is a real priority for Edmontonians, and we hear this support over and over and over again, is if we have that sustainable and predictable funding, then we can carry on building the line from downtown, from southeast to downtown. We can carry on westward, and you know, I'd like to see that open by the time you know, my kids are in university, which is still a few years off. But yeah, absolutely, we should keep building the system, and that's why these funding commitments are so important.
And your social media campaign, and we discussed this on my radio show Edmonton this week, you said it's not just about the southeast line. That's just part of it. You're trying to gather you know, rally the troops to get support from all levels of government to show their support for ongoing LRT funding so that you can have that vision to have it reach, like Don said, get to the West End. Well,
you know, Mayor Nenshi in Calgary's got a $13 billion full built out of his transit system out to 2040. Mayor Watson in Ottawa has a $5 billion build out on top of the one that they're building right now. You know, Toronto could spend $50 billion on transit if it was available over a course of a generation. So there is a nation-building opportunity here that leaves all Canadian cities less congested, lower environmental footprint, better air quality, higher affordability for people, more housing choice, you know, all of the upsides and all the reasons why other cities in other parts of the world are so ambitiously investing in this infrastructure. So yeah, this is about changing the debate and getting people excited about the full potential of what our city could be like in a generation if only all three orders of government really stepped up with a long-term commitment.
And when we come back from the break, I want to talk about regional relationships, which you said was very important in your State of the City address. But we want to hear from you. This is your turn here on Shaw TV. My name is Wade Sork, and my special guest is Mayor Don Iveson. So let's take your calls when we come back right here on Shaw TV. This is your turn.
Hi, Hi, I'm Owen with Lifetime Basements and Renovations, offering basement development services in the Edmonton area. We specialize in basement remodeling and we do bathrooms too. Call 780-292-5661 or visit us online at lifetimerenos.ca.
Crystal Glass Canada, with 15 Edmonton area locations for auto, residential, and commercial glass services. Visit crystalglass.ca or call 310-GLASS.
Bring them on. The ones who aren't sure. The ones who can't wait. The ones with brand new shoes. And the ones with shoelace issues. The ones who love to be part of a group. And the ones who stand silent, tall, and more or less ready. At the YMCA, we never met a kid whose potential we couldn't see.
Visit kidshelpphone.ca/donate and give today.
My dad was very abusive.
He kicked me out and I haven't seen my family in a long time.
It's a developed country. You know, people don't consider that. There's kids struggling, but our kids are struggling.
I never thought in a million years I would be at a homeless shelter. And I regret doing everything I did because I can't go back to it now.
I just decided, like, enough's enough. You know, I gotta smarten up.
Those little things to us is huge for them.
The City of Edmonton has a huge carbon footprint. Is there a policy being developed that will seek to minimize it, either within your work as the mayor, your time as the mayor between next and future elections, or just over time in general?
Welcome back to Your Turn. I'm Wade Sorokin, and my special guest is Mayor Don Iveson. And we just heard about, on the street there, concern from a young person about the city's carbon footprint and carbon outtake or whatever. Policies moving forward.
Yeah, the city has an ambitious agenda for greenhouse gases, starting with our own operations, because we think we have to set the example with what we're doing. So we have a corporate greenhouse gas reduction strategy that relies heavily on looking at new technology. So LED streetlight conversion is one thing we're briskly pursuing. And actually, if you fly in or out of the city over in the nighttime, in the winter especially, you can really see that more and more parts of the city there's much less uplight glow, and you can look down, and instead of it being orange, which is the old sodium lights, which aren't nearly as efficient as the new LEDs, you see more and more areas where there's a soft white light and less light coming back, because we're actually wasting less light. That's the first way they're more efficient, is you waste less, and the second way is they're actually more technologically sophisticated. So we use 40 to 60% less electricity. Electricity on our grid here has a lot of coal in it. So things that we can do to reduce our use of electricity make a huge difference to our city's carbon footprint. So we're trying to make a significant reduction, I think 50% by 2020, and we have a long-term goal to be carbon neutral as a community, but that's sort of a stretch goal out to 2050. But we're also looking at, for the electricity that we do need, purchasing it from green sources. So, you know, every year out to 2020, we're phasing in a little bit more green power purchase to try to reduce our corporate footprint as a municipal government. And meanwhile, you know, one of the reasons why LRT expansion is so important is it's a low carbon way for people to move around in our city. So that is a big support to our overall greenhouse gas reduction strategy for the community. And then we've done some interesting work, and there'll be a report coming forward soon again on an energy transition strategy, looking at how between renewable energy and energy efficiency is a huge part of it in a cold weather climate like ours, how businesses and citizens can also make investments that will save them money over time and reduce their risk to fluctuating energy prices. So it's an ongoing piece of work for us to reduce our greenhouse gas footprint as a community.
All right, we have a tweet that came in from John. Says, Mayor, annexation is still a topic of apprehension for surrounding municipalities. How do we work together on the growth that Edmonton needs.
Was that John Whaley, the mayor of Leduc County?
No, no, it wasn't. I mean, you state in the State of the City address, you say it's important to have functional relationships with all our neighboring municipalities. So, I mean, there was talk about forced amalgamation. I know that didn't come from you.
No, it did, and I have to be really clear about this, is that the discussion about amalgamation came from the president and CEO of the city's Chamber of Commerce. And that was because there is significant frustration in our business community about lost opportunity in the region here, because we're not coordinating very well on economic development, selling the whole benefit of this region. We're still kind of playing for keeps, saying, well, I want this, industrial development on my side of the border. And I get that, because today, right now, the way this region's set up, you got 24 different municipalities all trying to prop up their own sustainability. Challenge is that's kind of a race to the bottom. It doesn't really build a great region. It doesn't cluster businesses together effectively, and it doesn't leverage provincial infrastructure spending and our own infrastructure spending to greatest effect. So there's a real opportunity to elevate our game there through a little bit more collaboration on economic development promotion, planning for regional infrastructure, and then planning for the growth that's going to come with that a little more effectively. We're going to get a chance to do that soon with a 5-year update of the current growth plan for the region. And I'm looking forward to working with our neighbors on that in a collaborative way that elevates the whole region rather than just picking winners and losers.
All right, well, we want to hear from you. This is your turn here on Shaw TV. My special guest is Mayor Don Iveson, and we have Nathan on the line, I believe. Let's talk to Nathan. Hello, Nathan.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. You're on with Mayor Iveson.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, Don. I had a chance to listen to your address yesterday at lunch, and I didn't have a chance to hear anything about the old arena and Northlands and what's taking place in Northlands, and what your vision is for that area with everything going on with the new arena.
Okay, thank you very much, Nathan.
Well, we have a lot of work to do. Well, really, Northlands has a lot of work to do because they're an independent organization. They're a key partner with the city, certainly, in a lot of things that we do because they manage the convention center. And they have a lease with control over the existing arena, the Coliseum, as I like to think of it, going back to, going out like 35 more years, more than 3 decades anyway. So they really are masters of their own destiny with that building. But that doesn't mean that the community can't come together for some conversations. Support for Northlands as they think about what happens next. May make sense for them to continue to operate that building with a different set of users. May make sense for them to repurpose or perhaps replace that building with something different. So I think that there's work to do with Northlands, but we can't just force Northlands to do something. They are an independent organization. Right. They've been around for more than 130 years. So, but there's a lot of people interested in it. Our economic development folks work closely with them as well and manage the Shaw Conference Center. There's the opportunity to talk about some ways to work together.
Is there tension at all there?
Well, I couldn't say. I think there's a willingness on both sides to enter into some dialogue, and I think the fact that we now know that past 2016 the Oilers are going to be playing downtown, that creates a conversation. It's an opening to talk about what the future could be like for Northlands. I don't have a predetermined outcome for what should happen with Northlands. I think I stand ready to work with them to support their long-term success.
They may have to reinvent themselves.
Yeah, and they're a community-based organization, so that's going to require support from the whole community, and a lot of business leaders are interested in making sure that Northlands is successful into the future. Yeah, I've had a lot of those conversations.
Okay, well, the phone lines are open. We want to hear from you. You can tweet us as well. I want to talk about snow removal. The city spends more on snow removal than any other major city in Western Canada, yet many Edmontonians still aren't satisfied with the service. 3 years ago, the city adopted a new snow clearing plan. In your opinion, is Edmonton's snow clearing plan working?
Yes and no. How's that for a political answer? I think it depends on what kind of snowfall we have. It depends the temperature of it. I think a lot of Edmontonians tell me that it's better than it was, say, 5 years ago. But there's partly remembering that very, very tough winter we had in 2011, where we had a foot to a foot and a half snow fall in one big dump in that horrible week in January. Yep. But this last winter was very challenging for us. We had twice as much snow as we normally get in the period leading up to New Year's, and so I think our people worked incredibly hard. they were out 24/7 pretty much from when the first snowflake fell to Christmas, when they finally got a bit of a break once it stopped snowing in early January. But you know, I think our folks are doing the best they can. I think City Council is going to be looking this spring at whether Edmontonians are ready to give up their parking for a couple of days, or maybe for the season, in order that we can push the snow around and store it in different locations. Because right now the big issue for a lot of people is that we're doing this neighborhood blading, which works for some people, and in certain neighborhoods, you know, the Grid Street neighborhoods, it seems to work pretty well, and a lot of the cul-de-sac neighborhoods, it's really not working for people. So, but if we're not going to just blade it and shave it, if we're going to go right down to bare pavement, that creates a big hump of snow. Yeah. We got to store that somewhere, so then you can't park on the street. You know, and picking it up, scooping it up, and hauling it away is not an option when you got 5,000 kilometers of road to pick all that snow up off of. I mean, not without, you know, significantly increasing the amount of money, like a couple, you know, 2 or 3 times what we spend right now on snow removal, and I don't think Edmontonians are ready to go there yet.
But the other issue that always piggybacks on snow removal is potholes. You've heard it, all your colleagues have heard it. We have a tweet in here that says, Mayor, how do you assure balance between LRT and roads? You are very pro-LRT. I support the LRT, but Edmonton needs better roadways too.
And I completely agree, and I think you know, we're still catching up from some underinvestment in the roads historically, and you know, this council has increased by a factor of 6 what we're putting into our neighborhood roads, where we have a huge backlog, and we know that we need to probably double what we're putting into our main roads still in order to get on top of it over a reasonable period of time. But you know, last year we had 750,000 potholes, which was a record for us, and you know, it could be as difficult a year here for us with the freezing and thawing that we've seen so far. So Edmontonians need to brace for that, but also understand that City Council, every last one of us, understands that the roads need to be in good condition, and those investments are going to be made, you know, this construction season and the coming ones under our stewardship.
So not being so much reactive as being more proactive?
Well, instead of just patching the potholes, we're actually trying to get into the ground, you know, on the pieces of road where the whole roadway structure has failed. You got to go in, you got to dig it down, you got to reset it, and then you got to put new pavement over top, and that's very disruptive. But you're going to see a lot more orange barricades in town in the next few years. People are going to hate the construction, but there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of roads that we can be proud of again.
Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Oh, by the way,
and it's going to cost money, and we're going to have to talk about where that comes from, but I think Edmontonians are okay with us investing their tax dollars in their roads.
I just want to mention that tweet came from Cookie Ducky. Thank you very much for that. But I think we have Daniel on the phone right now. Daniel, welcome to the program. Hello, Daniel. I can hear him. Daniel, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, Daniel, you're on with Mayor Iveson. Go ahead.
Hi, Mayor Don Iveson.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Don't listen to your TV. Just listen to your telephone, okay?
Okay, what are we going to do about the homelessness on 107th Ave?
Well, we've got a serious homeless problem, and thank you for that question. We've got a serious homeless problem throughout the city, actually. You know, 10 years ago we had maybe a few hundred hardcore homeless people at any given time, but you know, we saw through the boom, we saw that population explode to over 3,000. Now, our 10-year plan to end homelessness, which is entering its 5th year here, we've seen real success. We've taken well over 2,000 people off the streets, I think close to 2,400, but we've seen 1,800 people become homeless again in that same time. So the net gain is, you know, it's kind of a few steps forward and one step back. But the real issue that we're bumping into now is that a lot of the people who are still on the streets have very, very, very serious addictions and mental health issues. And so the housing that they need is the kind of housing that was very controversially proposed for the Terwilliger neighborhood. You know, we need a significant number of new units of what's called permanent supportive housing, which has a high level of supports for people so that they can stay housed and so that they can begin to deal with their addictions and mental health issues, because you can't just put them in regular apartments. They need a lot of extra help, and there's a lot of stigma that comes around that, and that's some of the flashpoint we had in the neighborhood there, and the fear that comes in other cities. But the other alternative is that we leave these people homeless, which again is incredibly expensive in terms of the healthcare costs. You know, some of these folks will drive 6 figures, and a few of them will drive 7 figures a year in healthcare spending. And we know that our police chief, you know, can identify by name some of their repeat customers who are who are people who are not actually serious criminals, but and they're not criminally responsible. No court or no judge would hold them criminally responsible, but they still consume a huge amount of our policing expense, which is our largest cost in our budget. So we know that there is, again, a strong economic return on investment, and morally, I think most Edmontonians agree that we need to do more to support these people coming off the street. But that means building a lot more of these units around the city.
All right. We have another caller. I believe it's Don. Don, welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi, Mayor. It's great to talk to you. I'm basically, I want to talk about the bicycle lanes in the city, and I'm a cyclist. I cycle from Westmount basically to the university all the time, and I love the fact that the city has done so well in keeping that Grote Road bicycle lane clear on the sidewalk there. But also, I've cycled all over the world, and one place I've cycled is in San Diego, for instance, and they have designated bicycle streets there. Rather than putting bicycle lanes on those streets that really annoy the residents there and take away parking on one side of the street. Now, I side in with those people. I'm a cyclist, and I think if you could basically designate streets as bicycle streets, I think people would accept that a lot more than taking parking away from people in residential areas that would, that causes them to have to park in their back lanes and stuff like that, even if they have that. And I think that is something that needs to be considered. Thanks very much, and I'll listen to your answer. Thank you
for your call, Don. We knew this would come up. I mean, it's been a real contentious issue since the city, came up with the 500-kilometer master bicycle lane plan. Are you surprised at the backlash to this concept in Edmonton?
Well, in every city where you try to make the shift and potentially you risk inconveniencing people or they feel inconvenienced because parking, which they feel entitled to because it's in front of their home, the city has always had the right to take that back, either to store snow or to make it a through lane or to use it for something else, and in this case bicycle lanes. That's a huge transition for people, and I recognize that, and I've dealt with that frustration with people. Our experience has been that where they've gone in, people adapt to that over time. However, there's still frustration and there's still confusion about the lanes for some people, and I actually agree to the extent that there may be places in the city where it makes a lot of sense not to put bike lanes on the main road. There was a discussion a couple of years ago, someone floated the idea of bike lanes on White Ave, and I thought that was a terrible idea because the road's way too busy. There's a lot of turning movements on that road, and there's alternate routes nearby that are still straight through routes, because if you give cyclists a too circuitous a route, they won't use it. They'll go back out to the main road anyway, and you won't be able to attract the other more casual users. But so something like 83rd Avenue, which is where the city actually plans to put in something we call a bicycle boulevard, very like what I imagine they have in San Diego that the caller was describing.
Barrier, right?
Well, that's a separated bike lane,
okay,
but Bicycle Boulevard it's a quieter side street that may have little traffic circles at the intersection so that cars aren't speeding through, and it may have a flasher so that you can change a street light at a busy intersection, position near the curb where a cyclist can do it. They've got these in Vancouver, and I think they work very well. And so where the street system is in a grid like that, and there's an alternative route like that, I think that's a great option, actually. And I've been pushing very hard for that on 83rd Avenue as one option. So I think we need to look at those different things. They may cost a little bit more, but if they work better and invite more people, especially families, to feel safe and comfortable using it, that's a good thing.
All right, well, this is your turn here on Shaw TV. I'm Wade Sorkin. My special guest, Mayor Don Iveson, will take more of your calls right after this.
The foundation of my community starts with you and me. More than charity, it's the empathy I feel for the people where I live. Close to home is where the heart is. Where help goes farthest, my foundation helps me start this. Bringing care to those who can't get by or just need to fly. My foundation reaches across the land, showing what we thousands banded together can do, including you. With a way and a will, it all gets built on the foundation.
It keeps you awake at night. It causes you stress. Debt. No one else sees it, but it's always there, just hanging around and weighing you down.
Get debt off your back. The Credit Counseling Society is a non-profit service that's helped thousands of Canadians solve their debt problems. It's confidential, it's free, and it works. Call the Credit Counseling Society. All you've got to lose is your debt.
Crystal Glass Canada, with 15 Edmonton area locations for auto, residential, and commercial glass services. Visit crystalglass.ca or call 310-GLASS.
Iveson. I'm just wondering how you are going to continue to invest in the arts as Edmonton has, and if you have any particular strategies or new program developments to also do more to support the arts in Edmonton.
Welcome back to Your Turn. I'm Wade Sorokin with my special guest, Mayor Dawn Iveson. We're taking your phone calls, and we went to the street to ask what you wanted to ask Mayor Dawn Iveson. We just talked, just had there from that young lady about the arts in Edmonton.
You know, I got a little bit of heat yesterday because I didn't talk much about the arts in the State of the City address because I was talking about things where I think we have a lot of work to do, and there's always opportunity to do more in the arts. But thank goodness, arts is one of the arts scene is one of the things that's going very, very well in Edmonton here. You know, City Council, and I'm proud to be a part of City Councils that doubled funding to the arts. I actually ran on that in 2007. People said, that's nuts, you shouldn't run on that, you know, it's too niche and people will think you're crazy, but we did it, and I was, you know, proud to serve with a council that was bold enough to do that. And we see that money being invested in festivals and in the marquee organizations like the Art Gallery and the Symphony, but we're seeing a lot of it go directly to artists to support their promotion and their work and their study, their development. And so I think this City Council remains committed to that. There was absolutely no discussion in this last budget about cutting funding that we provide to the Edmonton Arts Council. It's critical funding in our community. It does a lot of good. It supports an industry that's over $100 million across the creative economy here in Edmonton, and so it remains a critical part of the city, and I'm fully committed to it.
All right, well, let's get back to the phone lines. I believe you have Susan on the line. Hello, Susan.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Hey, we're doing great. You're on with Mayor Dawn Iveson.
Hi, Susan.
Oh, hey, Mr. Mayor. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent. Mr. Mayor, I was at your speech yesterday at the Chamber event, and I was really impressed with most of what you said, but I was really excited about how you kind of laid it out for the Premier. And I caught some of the coverage of the budget today, but I was just wondering what your thoughts were about today and what it means for the LRT for Edmonton.
Thank you for that, Susan.
Yeah, we're still trying to parse the budget a little bit because unfortunately what the province does in their budget is they forecast out 3 years. And so if you just look at the next 3 years, there definitely isn't the funding that we need to build the Southeast LRT, except that this is a much longer build out than just 3 years. This is a project that wouldn't actually come online until 2019. So we're talking about 5 years and payments being made probably out into 2020 on completion of construction. And so the province has tried to reassure me since the budget rolled out today that they have got some additional funding identified and that they want to work with us. So we need to keep talking with them and see whether we can keep this project on track. The budget itself today doesn't give us what we need, but they're assuring us that they want to keep working with us on it. So time will tell. We've got till about end of April in order to try to get sources of funding identified for the provincial contribution to Southeast LRT.
All right, we need to take another quick break. We're back with more of Your Turn here on Shaw TV with my special guest, Mayor Dawn Iveson. More right after this.
Crystal Glass Canada, with 15 Edmonton area locations for auto, residential, and commercial glass services. Visit crystalglass.ca or call 310-GLASS.
Shaw TV is your local voice, bringing local events, information, and entertainment to your community. Shaw TV welcomes story ideas and proposals for shows or series that represent local viewpoints and activities. These shows or series can be an idea or already produced. For information on how to submit a proposal, please visit us at shawtv.com.
I own a business just down the way from here. One of the struggles that I'm having right now is the fact that the lease rate is very high, upwards of about $3,000 to $5,000, and I just want to know what you're going to do in the future to help a young person like me with their business to thrive and so forth.
Welcome back to Your Turn. I'm Wade Sorkin, and my special guest, Mayor Don Iveson, and your phone calls. We'll take them. We still have some time for your calls, but we just heard on the street there about small business, a young small business owner. That was part of your State of the City address, too, talking about the strength of Edmonton being in our small businesses.
This is an incredibly entrepreneurial city, and the challenge that we face in a city that's growing as fast as Edmonton, that's as economically healthy as Edmonton, is that it's also a good real estate market, which means that costs are going to go up. So, you know, I hope that there's going to be more new construction that's going to bring on supply, that's going to help moderate prices for business owners of all kinds. You know, I got this question a couple of months ago, and I had a terrible answer, which is that the city stays out of the market. The city's not in the business of subsidizing rent for private industry, and I felt really bad after I said that. And even though that's technically true, I forgot that one of the other things that we are working on right now that has been really positive is with groups like Startup Edmonton, which are incubators for small business. You know, we are providing support for early stage entrepreneurs to get their idea off the ground, and sometimes space is one of the things that they can that will help them a great deal. So you still need that business to grow and develop customers and to be able to pay its bills over time. But you know, I think incubation is really important service to businesses. Is one that we provide through directly through Startup Edmonton and our work with Tech Edmonton, which is the commercialization wing of the university that we partner with, and through the research park that Edmonton Economic Development runs. So there are a lot of things the city's doing trying to make it easier for entrepreneurs to get their idea going. But once it's up and running, it really has to be able to go under its own steam.
All right, we have a Twitter question. This is from Hump Day. It appears the City of Edmonton will get chartered to tax. Unlikely the Alberta government will give up revenue. Does this mean increased taxes?
Well, you know, the City of Edmonton, like most other municipalities in Canada, has about 8 cents of the tax dollar right now. So that means the province and the feds have more or less the other 92. What most people don't realize that they think we have a lot more of their money. If you poll Canadians, they think that municipal government has about a quarter of their money, and they're way off. But with that, we have to deliver services you depend on every day, like fire and policing. And, well, hopefully you don't depend on fire every day, but it's there if you need it. And transit and roads and so on. And we've got 60% of this country's public infrastructure is in the charge of municipal government. So we're stretching that 8 cents as far as we can. We top it up with a few grants from other orders of government, but every municipality is struggling with that. The big cities struggle with extra challenges. For us, you know, it's affordable housing, it's complex cross-border policing, big city issues that really only Edmonton and Calgary face. And so the first part of the city charter conversation is identifying roles and responsibilities and the places where the city really is supporting a provincial mandate or where a decision they've made has downloaded cost on us. And then the second part of the conversation is what's the new fiscal framework to recognize the city's special challenges. And you know, at this point, I'm not prejudging an outcome on that. People who want to scuttle the whole thing will say, oh, it's just a tax grab. But you know, if you think that you can build a great city on 8 cents, then you know, come take my job, because we really do need a new fiscal framework for Edmonton and Calgary to be globally competitive into the future.
All right. Well, speaking of your job, we're coming to the end of the program. Just want to get a little more personal with you here. What's been the coolest part of being mayor so far for you?
You know, the coolest thing has been being able to include my family in some aspects of the job. You know, yesterday, Icelandair had their first flight to Edmonton with that new direct flight to Reykjavik, which then allows Edmontonians to hop to 20 other destinations in Europe. So this is a great thing for us whenever we have a new airline connection like that. And I was able to bring my son out to the airport, and you know, we got whisked through security, and it was a big party. And he's 4, and he just thinks the airport is cool, right? So I get to, you know, even though it's challenging and my hours are very long, once in a while I'm able to bring family into it. My wife has taken on a lot of leadership with some good causes in the city here too. And so when we can go to an event, and she's chairing the library's fundraiser this Saturday, whenever we can mix a little bit of family with a little bit of work, you know, it's really, really rewarding, because I've got full support from the family, and you know, my kids will have some remarkable things to remember when they look back on this time in their lives.
Let's give them a shout out. I mean, you have Alice, who's almost 2.
Alice is almost 2, and Dexter's almost 5.
4,
yeah.
almost 5.
Almost 5, yeah.
That's quite the work balance, being a mayor of a major city and balancing that home. So it's kind of cool that you can include them in some of the cool stuff that you do.
Well, you know, Edmontonians are busy people. A lot of people work hard, 2-income households trying to provide for their kids, do their best, and they're working shift work, and they're driving their kids to hockey. So we're not that different than any other busy Edmonton family.
Do you still take the LRT once a week?
Yeah, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week if it works. But so yeah, it's convenient. We chose to buy our house near it. We paid extra for it, but it saves me time. I get work done, and I get to meet interesting people, because now people come up to me on the LRT, so I don't get as much work done in terms of on my my phone. But people want to talk to me, and I haven't had a bad conversation yet on the LRT.
Well, it's been a great conversation with you today, and with our listeners. Let's do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for being here, Mayor Don.
This is great, Wayne.
All right. Well, it's your turn here on Shaw TV, and we would like to thank you for being a part of the show, for watching, and for contributing through Twitter, and for phoning us. And we'll look forward to doing this again. I'm Wade Sork, and join us next time when it'll be your turn.
The proceeding was an independently produced community access program. The viewpoints expressed are those of the community access producer and do not reflect those of Shaw Cable Systems. The program is presented in response to CRTC policy guidelines regulating community programming.